Pete had Elliot, Bastion had Falkor, and Mulan had Mushu. No matter how many more times Hollywood will pair humans with dragons, none will ever quite compare to the bond shared by Hiccup and Toothless from the critically acclaimed animated tale, How to Train Your Dragon. What began as one animated film became a full-fledged franchise practically overnight, and we've got all the fiery details. Hi, I'm Devon with Channel Frederator, and with an epic sequel released in 2014, a threequel due out in a couple years, several TV spin-offs, video games, and, of course, graphic novels, there's a whole lot of Burke-related matters to cover. So grab your Night Furies, because this is 107 facts about How to Train Your Dragon. Let's get flying! Number 1. How to Train Your Dragon is the 19th feature film released by Disney's arch-nemesis, Dreamworks Animation, known for creating animated gems like The Prince of Egypt, Kung Fu Panda, and the savior of Smash Mouth's career, Shrek. Number 2. Much like Shrek, How to Train Your Dragon was loosely based on a children's book series of the same name. The series was written by British children's author Cressida Cowell, who released 12 books from 2003 to 2015. Number 3. Cowell's book series was based off the author's childhood experiences spent on a remote island off the coast of Scotland. The island was without the luxuries of electricity and roads, and so Cowell began imagining the isolated land as the backdrop for a story about Vikings and dragons. Number 4. Dreamworks first acquired the rights to Cressida Cowell's books as early as 2004. Coming off the success producer Bonnie Arnold had with Dreamworks' Over the Hedge, the studio asked Arnold to handpick the next property she would like to work on next. She, of course, chose How to Train Your Dragon. Number 5. Producer Bonnie Arnold was so interested in adapting to How to Train Your Dragon because the relationship between Hiccup and Toothless was something most audiences could identify with, especially those out there with pets, like cats and dogs. According to Arnold, she's been told many times by viewers that Toothless reminds them of their favorite pet. Number 6. The film was originally to be directed by Peter Hastings, the man behind Disney's The Country Bears, but Hastings left the project after the passing of his wife. Number 7. Peter Hastings' vision for the film was drastically different than the one that was released into theaters. Before DeBlow and Sanders came aboard, the film was extremely loyal to the source material, and had a happy-go-lucky, whimsical tone that the studio executives saw as being far too young for the demographic they wanted. Number 8. The film wound up being directed by Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlow. The duo had previously co-directed Disney's Lilo and Stitch back in 2001. So stories about outcasts befriending misunderstood creatures is kind of their thing. Number 9. Producer Bonnie Arnold handpicked Dean and Chris to helm the film, the three having previously known each other back from when they worked for Disney, with Chris and Dean working on Lilo and Stitch at the same time that Arnold was producing Tarzan. Number 10. How to Train Your Dragon was in development for 4 years without much progress being made before it was given to Sanders and DeBlow. To make matters more challenging, the directors had a mere 15 months to reinvent the film into the masterpiece it would eventually become, a task that usually takes about 3 years. Number 11. Not only were Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlow pulled in at the last minute to helm a crumbling project that needed to be finished quickly, but it was also the first time the duo had ever worked on a CG animated film, so everything was a learning experience for them. Number 12. When Sanders and DeBlow were initially brought on board to direct the project, they were given 3 tasks by Dreamworks head honcho, Jeffrey Katzenberg. The plot had to focus on a strained father-son relationship, the smallest Viking had to go on a quest that would culminate in him defeating the biggest and most menacing dragon, and finally, it had to appeal to a broad audience with a tone akin to the Harry Potter series. Number 13. According to Dean DeBlow, the directors referred to James Cameron's Avatar when establishing the look of the film, aiming for something whimsical yet grounded in reality. Middle ground between CGI and live-action filmmaking? Yep. This film was definitely made in 2010. Number 14. The directors brought aboard acclaimed Academy Award-winning cinematographer Roger Deakins to consult on the lighting of the film in order to achieve a look that was as close to photorealism as they could get. Deakins is mostly known for his stellar work on the Coen brother films, like No Country for Old Men, and for his workshops regarding his theories of light. Number 15. In the book series, the Vikings had a more cowboy-horse relationship with the dragons for generations. To add more of a conflict to the story, the directors decided to begin the story with the Vikings and the dragons as mortal enemies fighting in a rivalrous war. For the sake of Hiccup's story arc, it was decided that he, the smallest and most insignificant Viking, would be the one to end the feud and establish the partnership found in the books. Number 16. Toothless is practically nothing like he is in the books. In the novels, Toothless is a small, iguana-sized runt that Hiccup would crush if he ever even attempted to mount him. In fact, Hiccup doesn't ride Toothless in the novels until the 6th book in the series. Talk about things escalating quickly. Number 17. The filmmakers increased Toothless' size and made him a Night Fury because they wanted to give Hiccup more of a challenge in achieving the previously impossible bond between dragons and Vikings. And what's more challenging than a large fire-breathing creature with the capacity to end your life in a heartbeat? Number 18. Toothless was originally designed to resemble a wolf, but after seeing a black leopard on the screensaver of a Dreamworks animator, it was decided that Toothless would take on a more feline appearance. Number 19. The final design and personality of Toothless was based on that of cats, dogs, horses, and even salamanders. And if Toothless' face seemed a little familiar to any Disney fanatics out there, it was partially inspired by the face of Stitch. The directors worked on that film too, so it makes sense that they're similar. Number 20. The filmmaker strove to make Hiccup literally smaller than the world he lives in, depicting objects and environments as larger than life. They did this to emphasize that this wasn't a typical animated film in which the characters make it out unscathed, but one of real danger that could demand a great sacrifice. Number 21. The filmmakers referred back to the 1979 film The Black Stallion when developing Toothless' character and story. Have you seen it? See any similarities? Number 22. The first sequence Sanders and DeBlow worked on upon inheriting the project was the scene they referred to as the Forbidden Friendship, which wound up becoming the scene in which Hiccup and Toothless cross the threshold of trust and ignite their friendship when Hiccup provides food and a prosthetic for the injured and helpless Toothless. Number 23. One problem the directors came across while writing the story was establishing the connection between Toothless and Hiccup visually. It was Chris Sanders that came up with the idea of Toothless mimicking Hiccup's movements and gestures, namely his smile. Sanders illustrated the scene before writing it, as the directors knew from the get-go that it would lack dialogue and it would be driven by music. Number 24. Toothless' hesitation during the scene in which Hiccup places his hand atop his head was actually a glitch in the animation software, but the animators thought that this accidental timing worked so beautifully that they left it in. Happy little accidents, people! Number 25. According to the filmmakers, the relationship between Toothless and Hiccup is much more than that of a human and their pet dog. They see each other as equals and best friends, just like two humans would consider each other. Number 26. The animators would use their own pets and research their movements to implement into Toothless' performance. They even spent a lot of time on YouTube watching cat and dog videos, making one of the few times in history such an activity served a productive purpose. Number 27. Much like the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park films, the sounds Toothless makes are a mixture of different animals, including horses, whales, elephants, and even the voice of the film's sound designer, Randy Thom. Number 28. To get a better idea of what noises Toothless would make in specific situations, Randy Thom would have Dean DeBlow write lines of dialogue that Toothless would say if he could speak English. Number 29. The sound that the Terrible Terrors make come from a viral YouTube sensation known as Paco the Chihuahua, a dog that makes a unique yet disturbing sound that resonated with the sound designer at Skywalker Sound, so much that they actually contacted Paco's owner and had the dog record audio for the film. Paco was paid $100 for his services. That's a lot of kibble. Number 30. Astrid didn't exist in the How to Train Your Dragon books. The film team felt their story needed a strong, capable female character that young girls could look up to. Thus, Astrid was willed into existence. Number 31. The directors toyed around with the idea of killing off a character in the first film's final battle, but they thought it would be a little too extreme, so they decided to have Hiccup lose a leg instead. They did this not just to depict a hero's sacrifice, but to mirror Toothless' injury at the start of the film in order to give the characters a further connection. The producers were worried that it wouldn't go well with parents, but they were surprisingly okay with it during test screenings. Number 32. In one of the film's original cuts, Hiccup was to wake up from the final battle to learn of and cope with the loss of his leg alone. After viewing this cut, directing legend Steven Spielberg suggested that Toothless be there in the room with Hiccup to lighten up the scene, and to reinforce their relationship as something more akin to a friendship and less of a cowboy's relationship with a horse. Number 33. The voice actors were already cast before Sanders and DeBlow were brought on to helm the project, only to have all of that dialogue scrapped after the last-minute rewrite of the script. So basically, they recorded almost 2 movies worth of dialogue.
Are you kidding me?
Number 34. Hiccup is played by actor Jay Baruchel. To date, the character is the only voice role that Baruchel has ever played, and he has played him over 8 times for the films, TV show, and video games. Number 35. Stoic's voice was provided by Scottish actor Gerard Butler, who has been immortalized by the internet for shouting, "This is Sparta" in the 2006 Zack Snyder film 300, in which he played King Leonidas. Number 36. Actress America Ferrera is the voice behind Hiccup's badass love interest Astrid. Ferrera is perhaps best known for her role as Betty Suarez on ABC's hit comedy series Ugly Betty. Number 37. America Ferrera has wanted to be in an animated movie since she was a child, as they were a huge part of her childhood and continued to be important to her to this very day. She even said that she tries to find excuses to watch animated movies as she gets older, joking that she would kidnap children just so she could take them to see the latest animated flick. I mean, as long as she returns them afterward, what's the harm in that? Number 38. Gobber's lovely vocals were provided by British comedian Craig Ferguson, formerly of The Late Late Show. Ferguson has a knack for appearing on several animated films and TV shows, like Brave, Winnie the Pooh, and American Dad. Number 39. Comedic actor Jonah Hill plays Snotlout. A departure from Hill's typically more R-rated career in films like 21 Jump Street, This Is the End, and of course Superbad. Number 40. The twins Roughnut and Toughnut are played by comedic actors Kristen Wiig and TJ Miller, both of whom are no stranger to playing animated characters. Wiig has also played Brenda in Sausage Party, while Miller portrayed Fred in Disney's Big Hero 6. Number 41. While voice acting sessions typically utilize one actor in the booth at a time, the directors were sure to get some of the actors behind the secondary characters together in the booth as often as possible to get better improvisation and chemistry out of them. Number 42. Whenever the cast wasn't able to record dialogue together, which was 99% of the time, the cast members in the booth would compensate by first watching an animatic of the scene with whatever voices had been compiled at the time. Next, they would get into the booth and read the lines off to Dean DeBlow, who would stand in for every other character. According to Baruchel, Dean's take on Hiccup was hilariously bad. Number 43. The reasons the accents greatly differ between the adults and the children in the series was because the directors wanted to create a very noticeable gap between the two generations of Vikings. They referred to the likes of Stoik and Gobber as true Vikings, while Hiccup and friends are more like the kids at the Sherman Oaks Mall. Number 44. Jay Baruchel prefers voice acting over physical acting. Despite the fact that he's been in front of a camera since he was 12, Jay just never feels quite as comfortable on a set with dozens of crew members and set lights looking at him as he does in a booth with the director and a few sound engineers. Number 45. Jay also prefers not having an idea of what the final product looks like, as other actors often do with live action. He instead craves the surprise that comes with seeing everything come together as it does in an animated film. Number 46. The film's musical score was composed by the Oscar-nominated musician John Powell. Powell has worked with Dreamworks Animation on more than 3 occasions, contributing to the music of Ants, The Road to El Dorado, Chicken Run, Kung Fu Panda, and Shrek. Number 47. Powell looked to concept art and listened to the works of Finnish musician Gene Sibelius for inspiration when writing the film's score, but ultimately chose to create something more in the vein of Celtic melodies instead of something more true to Norse culture. Number 48. Dreamworks Animation has a tendency to customize the iconic boy fishing on the moon logo with something pertaining to the film that's about to start. For How to Train Your Dragon's Dreamworks logo, you can briefly see Toothless soaring quickly across the night sky. Number 49. Gloria the Hippo from Dreamworks Madagascar makes quite a grim cameo appearance in the film. Before Toothless brings Astrid and Hiccup to the dragon's nest, take a close look at the pudgy gray snack the monstrous nightmare is carrying back to the nest. To make matters worse, the directors have confirmed that this is Gloria. Number 50. One of the designs seen on Hiccup's design board is that of a flux capacitor, the device that makes time travel possible in the Back to the Future trilogy. Number 51. Gobber has a total of 14 different attachments for his severed hand throughout the course of the first film. They're quite handy if you ask me. I'll shut up now. Number 52. Stoik is something of a giant, standing at a whopping 6 foot 9 inches tall. I knew there was a reason he looked like a ginger Hagrid. Number 53. Toothless is a truly unique dragon, as he is the very last known living specimen of his kind, the Night Fury. Only time will tell if the rest are truly gone forever. How to Train Your Dragon 3? Number 54. Night Furies were previously referred to as the unholy offspring of lighting and death itself. After Hiccup got a closer look at one, it turns out that they don't quite live up to the title. They're more like the scaly, flying, fire-breathing equivalent of a house cat. Number 55. Toothless has an echolocation sense akin to that of a radar. He can spit a ball of plasma that bounces off nearby terrain and back to him, which gives him a highly accurate reading of his surroundings. Take that, Google Maps. Number 56. At the end of a private screening of the film held towards the end of its production, Steven Spielberg claimed that How to Train Your Dragon was the best work Dreamworks Animation had ever done up to that point. Coming from the man that made E.T. and Jurassic Park, that sort of means a lot. Number 57. How to Train Your Dragon was released in the US on March 26, 2010, and conquered the North American box office until its opening weekend, raking in $43.7 million and beating out the Hot Tub Time Machine. Number 58. By the end of its theatrical run, How to Train Your Dragon accumulated nearly $500 million worldwide, making it the highest-grossing non-Shrek Dreamworks film at the time. It became the 5th highest-grossing animated film of 2010, losing out only to Toy Story 3, Shrek Forever After, Tangled, and Despicable Me. Number 59. How to Train Your Dragon was nominated for not 1, but 2 Oscars at the 83rd Academy Awards in 2011. Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlow were nominated for Best Animated Feature, while John Powell was nominated for Best Original Score, but lost out to Toy Story 3 and The Social Network respectively. There's always next time, guys. Number 60. The series became so popular that it got its very own arena show in 2012, How to Train Your Dragon Live Spectacular. It ran in Australia, New Zealand, the United States, Canada, and even China. The show featured highly advanced dragon animatronics created by global creatures. The workshop behind the dinosaurs that appeared in Walking with Dinosaurs, the Arena Spectacular, with 24 dragon animatronics being utilized for the production. Number 61. After it dominated the silver screen, How to Train Your Dragon established itself as a TV series on Cartoon Network in 2012 with the new title, Dreamworks Dragons, Riders of Berk. It covers the 5 years of Hiccup and Toothless' adventures that occurred between the first and second film, with most of the voice cast returning to reprise their roles from the films. Number 62. Unlike the other Dreamworks TV series that aired before it, Dragons was the first to find a home on Cartoon Network, whereas all the other series before it, like The Penguins of Madagascar and Kung Fu Panda Legends of Awesomeness, were on Nickelodeon. Number 63. In 2015, the Dragon series got with the times and transitioned from Cartoon Network to the renowned streaming service, and the source of procrastination amongst college students, Netflix, with the series rebranding itself as Dragons, Race to the Edge. It has 3 seasons so far. Number 64. A sequel for How to Train Your Dragon was such a no-brainer that it was greenlit by the studio a mere month after it was completed. At the same time, pre-production on the second film began immediately after its official premiere. Number 65. Dean DeBlow returned as a writer and director for How to Train Your Dragon 2. Chris Sanders instead opted to pursue a newer Dreamworks property, The Croods. Number 66. DeBlow told Dreamworks he would helm the second film on one condition. The second film wouldn't be an aimless sequel, but the second act in a trilogy that would tell the story of Hiccup's transformation from being the runt of a Viking litter to becoming the fearless and respected chieftain. As you probably know, the higher-ups at Dreamworks agreed to DeBlow's terms. Number 67. Dean cites The Empire Strikes Back as a major influence on the sequel, as it was able to maintain what fans of the original Star Wars loved, while expanding it in new and exciting ways, like making the story darker, exploring more mature themes, and raising the stakes, all things the director strove to achieve. He definitely did a good job making his own Hoth, that's for sure. Number 68. The decision to place How to Train Your Dragon 2 in an Arctic-like environment came from Dean DeBlow's lifelong fascination with the North and South Poles. To get a sense of those environments, the animation team took a research trip to Svalbard, which is the last spot up north before the pole. They saw plenty of polar bears, but no Santa. Number 69. Since the film takes place 5 years after the first film, Hiccup was bound to look quite different from his younger counterpart found in the original film. According to production designer Pierre Oliver Vincent, they went through at least 50 different redesigns of the character before settling on the Hiccup we see in the film. Number 70. By the time the second film starts, Hiccup's curiosity evolves into wanderlust, leading Toothless and himself to explore beyond the Vikings' world and into the unknown, where the duo discovers new, exciting, and terrifying lands never before experienced by Viking kind. Number 71. At one point in the film's development, Hiccup's mother, Valka, was to be the main antagonist of the film. She would have discovered that Hiccup was the reason Toothless was handicapped, sending her into a furious and psychotic rage that would culminate in an attack on Berk. Fortunately, this much darker take was scrapped. Number 72. When it was decided that Valka wouldn't be a Darth Vader, Drago was made the main villain, going against the original trajectory the trilogy would take. Had Valka been the villain of the second installment, Drago would have only been teased. He would have instead been introduced in the third film as the main villain. Number 73. In designing Drago, they decided to give him an exotic look different from the Nordic region to show how ambitious of a character he is. He literally has come a very long way to achieve his goal, so far that he will only stop when he's dead. Number 74. Drago was designed to resemble a massive predatory animal, sporting pitch black eyes, a nose that resembles the beak of an eagle, and dark clothing that not only makes him appear massive, but covers up a limb he has lost. According to DeBlow, Drago has made himself appear this way to accommodate for his handicap, and appear invincible and menacing to both his foes and minions alike. Number 75. In an early outline of the second film's plot, it was Gobber, not Stoic, that was slated to be killed off by a brainwashed Toothless. After running it by Guillermo del Toro, director of Pan's Labyrinth and Hellboy, the legendary filmmakers suggest that Stoic should be killed off instead, making for a much bigger impact in Hiccup's overall arc, and passing the torch of chieftain from father to son. This contribution to the story earned del Toro a special thanks in the film's credits. Number 76. The studio was split on the scene in which Toothless is forced to kill Hiccup, and Stoic sacrifices himself to save his son. Steven Spielberg came to the rescue yet again and defended the scene, claiming that it was strong, different, and bold. He also said that filmmakers could afford to lose Stoic, referring to Valka as a safety net for Hiccup so that he wouldn't be flat-out orphaned. Number 77. DeBlow states that he was most stressed out about how the audience would receive the scene in which Toothless kills Stoic and compares it to the anxiety he felt about how the public would react to Hiccup losing his leg in the first film. Much like the first gamble, this one paid off. Seriously, DeBlow should take a trip to Vegas sometime. Number 78. Hiccup's transition from a boy into a man through the death of his father was partially inspired by events in Dean DeBlo's past. At age 19, Dean's father had passed away, serving as a jumping off point for his own childhood and what he considers to be the beginning of his adulthood. Number 79. How to Train Your Dragon 2 was the first feature-length animated film to use revolutionary animation software called Apollo, taking the immediacy of hand-drawn animation, the tangibility of stop-motion animation, and the editing of computer animation, to make for a quick and seamless means of crafting new and exciting stories. Number 80. The sequel was worked on for a whopping 4 years, with development ending in a matter of weeks before its official premiere. By the time it wrapped production, over 50 animators had contributed to the film in some capacity. That's a lot of carpal tunnel. Number 81. To seamlessly and efficiently create the hundreds of background dragons that appear in the sequel, the animators came up with a modular system that creates multiple combinations of dragons based off of a certain number of pre-created heads, bodies, wings, and colors. Number 82. A lot of mothers who were brought in for test screenings didn't take too kindly to Valka, namely because previous drafts of the story had Valka willingly abandoned her family to be with dragons. To remedy the situation, they altered the narrative so Valka was instead taken away from her family by a dragon and refused to return because her appreciation for dragons would put her son in danger. Number 83. Hiccup's long-lost mother was played by the two-time Oscar-winning actress Cate Blanchett, known for her stellar performances in the films like The Lord of the Rings, Blue Jasmine, and The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Number 84. Dean DeBlo first approached Cate Blanchett about playing Valka at the 2011 Academy Awards. Luckily for DeBlo, Cate was thrilled to join the project, especially because of how popular the first film was with her own sons. Number 85. When pitching Valka to Blanchett at the Oscars, DeBlo described her as being a somewhat feral version of Dian Fossey, an American zoologist that extensively researched mountain gorillas for 18 years. And that Valka has been removed from human society and is living amongst a community of dragons for 20 years. Almost immediately, Blanchett hunched over in her gorgeous gown and began using her hands as if they were dragon claws. That kind of dedication is how you win 2 Oscars, folks. Number 86. Despite the authentic Scottish accent Valka possesses, Cate Blanchett is actually Australian, and multi-talented. Number 87. DeBlo describes Valka as a mix between actresses Tilda Swinton and 1980s action star Bridget Nelson. Despite this, Cate Blanchett was always the director's first choice for the role, stating that Cate is great at expressing vulnerability while also commanding a powerful presence. Number 88. Cate Blanchett refers to the moment Hiccup sees the masked Valka for the first time as the greatest entry of a character in cinema history. Blanchett makes her case by saying she appears from beneath the clouds, completely out of nowhere, wearing heavy armor and a mask, making it difficult for viewers to tell whether or not this character is a friend or foe, leading to a reveal that surprises Hiccup as much as it does the audience. Number 89. The villainous vocals of Drago were provided by the Oscar-nominated actor Djimon Hounsou, who's previously appeared in films like The Gladiator, Blood Diamond, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 90. Before starting his recording sessions, Djimon Hounsou would take part in several vocal exercises to better prepare his vocal cords for his performance. One of these exercises was a horrifying scream that resonated with Dean DeBlo so much that he implemented it into Drago's character. Number 91. The pretentious Eret, son of Eret, the last in a long line of Erets, was vocally brought to life by actor Kit Harington. He also plays a character named Jon Snow on some TV show, I don't know, Game of Thrones. You probably haven't heard of it before. Number 92. Kit Harington finds voice acting to be a bit more difficult than physical acting, as he can only use his voice. Throughout his recording sessions, he would occasionally get carried away and began making drastic movements as he spoke, moving him in and out of the microphone's range, and prompting many retakes. Whoops. Number 93. The only scene in which Jay Baruchel and America Ferrera recorded their lines at the same time was for their first scene together in which Astrid does an impersonation of Hiccup. Ferrera states that being in the same room with Jay really helped her out with that part especially.
I don't sound like that. What is this character?
Number 94. When Valka and Stoic bicker at each other in How to Train Your Dragon 2, Gobber tells Hiccup, "This is why I never married." That and one other reason. Both director Dean DeBlo and Craig Ferguson have come out and said that Gobber is basically telling Hiccup that he's gay, making him one of the first and few animated characters to come out as such. While Dean DeBlo has come out as openly gay, he said that the character trait was an ad-lib made by Ferguson. Number 95. John Powell returned to score the sequel and based the new soundtrack off of the film's central theme of maturing, taking several tunes from the first film and developing them further. Number 96. During Toothless's fight with the Alpha, you can briefly hear the Alpha make part of Godzilla's iconic roar as he's being hit by Toothless's fireballs. Number 97. How to Train Your Dragon 2 premiered as an entry at the 2014 Cannes Film Festival in May 2014, with the US red carpet premiere occurring at the Regency Village Theater in Los Angeles a little under a month later in June 2014. Number 98. The sequel was released theatrically on June 13, 2014, and went on to the second highest grossing animated film of 2014, only being beaten out by Disney's Big Hero 6. It raked in a total of $621 million worldwide. Number 99. How to Train Your Dragon 2 was the first film by Dreamworks Animation to win a Golden Globe, beating out Big Hero 6, The Book of Life, The Box Trolls, and denying the Lego Movie yet another award. Number 100. After having stakes in movies, TV shows, and video games, it was only a matter of time before the franchise entered the ever-so-popular comic book genre, with Dark Horse Comics developing several graphic novels based on the How to Train Your Dragon franchise. The first is titled The Serpent's Heir, and was released in February of 2017. Number 101. The Serpent's Heir was written by the film's director, Dean DeBlow, and lead writer for the TV series, Richard Hamilton. The Serpent's Heir takes place literally 1 minute after the conclusion of the second film. It tells the story of Hiccup and friends helping the people of an island dealing with earthquakes. At the center of it all is a madman with both an evil scheme and a powerful dragon in his possession that not even Alpha Dragon Toothless can seem to control. Number 102. How to Train Your Dragon 3 has had its fair share of delays. Originally aiming to come out a mere 2 years later in June 2016, but the studio realized it was better not to rush quality and pushed it to June 2017. However, when Pacific Data Images closed and Dreamworks was hit with layoffs, it was pushed back to 2018. Then, in December of 2016, it was announced that the film would hopefully be released in March 2019. That's a lot of delays. Poor Toothless. Number 103. Despite the rocky road the production has faced, Dean DeBlow will return to the director's chair for How to Train Your Dragon 3, with Bonnie Arnold returning to oversee it as producer, and John Powell coming back to cook up more of those sweet, sweet melodies. Looks like the gang's back together again. Well, some of them. Yes. Number 104. Each film in the series has been distributed by a different studio, with Paramount Pictures releasing the first film in 2010, followed by 20th Century Fox being attached to the sequel after signing a 5-year deal with Dreamworks in 2012, while the third film belongs to Universal Pictures after their purchase of Dreamworks Animation in 2016. That's a lot of studio surfing. Number 105. Following his statement that the second film is based on The Empire Strikes Back, Dean DeBlow stated that the third film will follow the trajectory of Return of the Jedi. One example of the comparison being the villainous Drago, whom the director compared to Star Wars Emperor Palpatine. Like Palpatine, Drago didn't appear in the first film. He was introduced in the second one, while the third will see him as a primary threat against the world. Dean, please just promise us that there won't be any Ewoks, okay? Thanks. Number 106. Oddly enough, Gerard Butler is confirmed to return in the third film as Stoic. While it's highly unlikely that Burke will be met with a zombie apocalypse, it will be interesting to see how the film will utilize the character. Number 107. In the third film, Hiccup has assumed Stoic's role as chief of his tribe, and Toothless has become the leader of the dragons. DeBlow describes it as a dueling story in which both Hiccup and Toothless are attempting to do what is best for their tribe, and Hiccup is able to come out of it standing on his own. Thanks for watching 107 Facts about How to Train Your Dragon. Which character is your favorite? Are you excited to see the third film? Comment below and let us know. We have videos dropping every week, so let us know which animated film or TV show you want us to cover next. And if you like getting more from your cartoons, subscribe to Channel Frederator, your cartoon central on the internet.